So this will be our last full day of practice together. And when we practice all day, then the days can be quite long. Especially that period, the early afternoon. So after the meal till about 4 p.m., it can seem quite long. But on this fourth day of the retreat, so it's the third full day, but we're calling it the fourth day of the retreat. For most people, the mind will start to settle a little bit. And the meditation can feel better, feel more peaceful. Sometimes, even though it feels more peaceful, our mind will still say, well, what is next? Or I want more than this. I feel peaceful, but I want to be more peaceful. I feel happy, but I want to be more happy. So this is an upasak, an obstacle. So if we feel peaceful and we think, I want to be more peaceful, then the thought, I want to be more peaceful, is what is keeping us from being more peaceful. The thought, I want to be more happy, is stopping us. It's blocking us from being more happy. So when we get to this point where we feel a little bit happy, a little bit peaceful, then it's very important to cultivate a quality of, in Pali we call santuti, in Thai is sandot, so contentment, where we learn how to be content with whatever is happening. And then there's the quality of pamoja, in Thai is brahmot, pamoja, and that is like gladness, delight in what we are doing. It's connected with contentment. It's a similar quality. So santuti and pamoja are two very important qualities. And then there's the Four Noble Truths, Arya Satsi. And these are truths that we will realize if we practice, if we develop samadhi or kwamhen chop, right view, we call right view. So first noble truth is dukkha, dukkhang arya sachang, dukkha. This is translated in English as suffering. But there's another translation I like. There's two more translations I like. One is unsatisfactoriness. Actually, there's three more translations I like. It depends on the situation. Actually, there's uncountable ways to translate dukkha. Suffering, unsatisfactoriness, not quite rightness, not quite right. Things are not quite right. So dukkha, we have to see it and understand it. And we have to have enough courage, enough saddha to be able to be with it and not run away from it. So sadness, sao mong, ga bin tu. Sadness is dukkha. Sorrow is dukkha. Heartbreak, pain, all types of pain. This is dukkha. Pain, restlessness, grieving, if we lose a loved one, grieving, all types of sadness. This is what the Buddha calls dukkha. Dukkhang arya sachang. So dukkha is to be understood. When we understand dukkha, we start to let go of these things. And it only comes through understanding dukkha. It doesn't come through running away. So when we, for example, the way we practice with this is when we are meditating and say we have a thought of anger come up, then we have to see that is dukkha. In that moment, anger is dukkha. It's not happiness. It's suffering. It's sadness, suffering. It's not making us happy. So we see that that is dukkha. When we see that that is dukkha, then we can start to the jit jai, the heart will naturally start to let go of it. But if we judge ourselves or we say, I'm bad because I have anger, I need to get rid of this, that is, we're not seeing it correctly. We're not seeing dukkha. We have to see that it's suffering. Lumpur Cha said over and over again, you have to see dukkha. And Lumpur Sumedho would say that in the early days in his teachings, he would say, you have to see dukkha. You have to see it. You have to see what is dukkha. And then what is causing dukkha? The second noble truth, Arya Sat Tisong. And that's what we call samudaya. In Pali is samudaya. In Thai we say samutai. The cause. Hate, hiker, tup. That's tanha. Tanha. Yeah. So when we see dukkha, we have to see how craving, how tanha is causing it. I want it to be this way. I don't want it to be that way. It's not easy to see this, so we have to practice a lot. And tanha, it's easy to forget. So it's very important to know that the dukkha arises inside of us. It doesn't come from anywhere else. The cause of dukkha is inside of us. That's a good thing because that means we can do something about it. But normally we don't see that way. Normally we think the cause of my suffering is the government, or the cause of my suffering is the weather, or the cause of my suffering is that person snoring in the room next to me, or the cause of my suffering is that the food wasn't good today, or the cause of my suffering is that my children don't respect me, or the cause of my suffering is my parents don't respect me, or the cause of my suffering is that my brother or sister stole money from me, or the cause of my suffering is that my friend betrayed me, or the cause of my suffering is that my partner broke up with me. So we normally look outside of ourselves. And if those things were the cause of suffering, there's nothing we could do about it. But because the suffering is coming from inside, we can do something about it. So that's the miracle. That's the Sing Mahatsajan of the Buddha's teaching, is that it's coming from inside and we can actually do something about it. If the government isn't the way we want, it is possible to not suffer over it. If our parents or children don't respect us, it is possible to not suffer over it, because we can look at the suffering, we can look at the tanha, we want it to be different. That's why we suffer. We want things to be other than what they are. And if we think the suffering comes from outside, there will always be things to suffer over, because the world will never be perfect. Or we might think I'm suffering because I have an illness. So that's again looking outside. But we don't have to suffer over it. We don't have to suffer over these things. The suffering comes from tanha, but it also comes from kamma. So the Buddha taught that if we do bad things, then suffering is the result. And if we do good things, then happiness is the result. So if we do bad things like kill living beings, steal, lie, suffering will result from that. We will experience that ourselves. If we do good things like generosity, tana parami, So if we do good things, sila parami. So if we keep the precepts, keep the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, if we are generous, if we are kind, that results in happiness. Is quite natural. And that arises because of our own actions, and then that arises in ourselves. So it's like kama sakomi, kama dayado. I am the owner of my actions. Tam di dai di, tam chua dai chua. That's in Thai, the saying in Thai. It's very easy, very simple to reflect on. An easy way to remember how to practice with the Four Noble Truths is that we can tell ourselves the dukkha that I'm experiencing is not coming from outside, it's coming from inside. Even though it seems like it's coming from outside, it's a trick. It's like a magical illusion. And tanha will tell us, if you get this thing, you'll be happy. If you get that thing, you'll be happy. And then when we get what we want, we might be happy a little bit, but then tanha is still there. It doesn't make it go away. In fact, it makes it stronger. So what can help with tanha is the nang bhavana, nang samadhi, durndungrom. That can help a lot. And then the third noble truth is in Pali is nirodha. And in Thai, we say nirod. And that's quammed up hang tup, or the ending of dukkha. That comes from latsia, that comes from relinquishing craving, completely stepping back, completely detaching ourselves from it. Yeah. But that can only happen with wisdom, panya. Sometimes we are not suffering, sometimes we are happy, but we don't notice it. So we keep trying to do something, we keep trying to get something else. We don't stop and notice that we are already happy. So it's important to notice, Longpo Pasano, he liked to teach that it's important to notice when we are not suffering. It's very important to notice when we are not suffering. Yeah. And then that's third noble truth. And then we think, why am I happy right now? Why am I not suffering? Why do I feel happy? Why do I feel content? Why do I have pamoja right now? Why do I have pramod? Yeah. And that's good. Why am I sabai? So if you're sabai already, that's good. There's nothing else to do, just to be with that and abide with that. And we can think, wow, how did that come about? That's interesting. Yeah. And then there's the fourth noble truth, the Hontang Anprasert is Aryamak Miong Bat. That's the excellent Noble Eightfold Path. And that's the fourth noble truth. That's Samaditi, Sama Sankapo, Sama Wacha, Sama Kamanto, Sama Ajiwo, Sama Wayamo, Sama Sati, sama, samadhi. That's right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, right samadhi. So the Buddha had this insight that the Arya Makmi Bat, the Noble Eightfold Path, was what brought him to his Nibbana, to the goal of the practice. Or as I've listened to the talks of different Kruba Ajahn, and one of them says, like, when the Noble Eightfold Path comes together as one, then the heart will see the Dhamma. Yeah. So sometimes we might have right view and right intention, but maybe our speech isn't quite right, or we might have the action isn't quite right. So the Noble Eightfold Path is not yet complete. So we can try to look at our speech. How are we using our speech? Yeah. The Buddha said the proper way to speak is to delight, be happy with bringing people together. And samaki, we don't use our speech to try to break people apart, but we try to bring people together. The Buddha said that if you know two people who yakkan, if they're apart, but you use your speech to bring them back together to be friends again, the Buddha said that's very good if you can do that. In English, it's called delighting in concord. Concord is like samaki, delighting in samaki. So if we can bring two groups that are fighting with each other, if we can bring them together, that's very good. And we can use the Dhamma to do that. We can use right speech to do that. But if we say, this group's wrong, that group's right, that's just speech according to the world. That's the worldly speech. But if we say, well, this group has some good qualities and some bad qualities, and this group has some bad qualities and some good qualities, how can we look at the good qualities and try to have a conversation and make these things better? That's the way to bring people together. And for myself, I know one of the most delightful things, or one of the funnest things about being monk, is being able to bring people together and getting people to meet each other, getting people to practice together. That's one of the best things about being a monk, is seeing people coming together when samaki. Actually, that reminds me that when Luangpo Pasano was leading a retreat on metta 15 years ago, there was a Q&A session, and this is a very Western, a very Farang-like question. They said, what is the funnest thing about being a monk? And Luangpo Pasano just started laughing for I listened to the Q&A session later, and he started laughing for quite a long time. And then after he stopped laughing, he said, it's not fun. This is one of the best answers I ever heard. So it isn't about having fun, but it is about being happy. So happiness and fun are two different things. Actually, before I was a monk, my whole life was I wanted to have fun. That was the most important thing in my life. But having fun isn't always a state of happiness. It's like quite agitated, actually. So 4 years ago, when I was at Temple Forest Monastery with Ajahn Nyaniko for their katina, there was a man who was the owner of Monadnock tents, and he sets up a big tent for them for their katina. And he's this strong guy. He's in his mid-50s, but he's in really good shape, and he snowboards and bikes and does all sorts of sports. And we were helping him set up this tent. And he said, "So what do you guys do for fun?" He said, "I ride my mountain bike and I go snowboarding. And what do you do for fun? That's really important. Having fun is really important." And then I thought, I don't know. I don't know what I do for fun. I guess I don't care about fun anymore. So that became the subject of a Dhamma talk, because I didn't really know how to answer him. And that before I was a monk, I was committed to having fun, but I wasn't happy. And now, as a monk, I have a lot more happiness, but I don't have fun. It's really strange. So fun is kind of like agitated. It's actually an agitated state. And it has its moments. Perhaps there's peak moments where you snowboard on the big mountaintop, but then it's over very quickly. You get to the bottom, you have to go to the top again. And the only part of fun where you really have happiness is that peak moment. All of the other moments, you're just searching for that peak moment. So it's actually a really strong state of craving. So if you're trying to have fun all the time, that's a really strong state of craving. And then you just get that peak moment, just very brief, and then it's over. And then you need to go try to find it again. If you climb to the top of the mountain, you get that peak moment when you get to the top, but then you just, then your experience it's very short. But if you have santuti or pramod, then it lasting much longer, and you can have the happiness much longer, because deep down inside. So with practice and practicing with the Four Noble Truths, and the key is to develop a very deep level of happiness. And it doesn't mean we're going around smiling all the time like those cute little monk statues that you see everywhere in Thailand. It's actually not like that. Like in the past, like Lungpa Liam, he would never smile, but he is very deeply happy. But he would almost never smile. So happiness isn't dependent on having fun or smiling all the time. It's a very deep state that we have. We're very deeply happy. We're very deeply content. Actually, Lungpa Liam, he started smiling more when he went to the West. He said that he had the realization that people needed that in the West. And also people needed to see him laugh so they could feel more happy. So he only started smiling and laughing more when he started going to the West. Lungpa Liam was giving a Dhamma talk at a Bayagiri one time, and I could understand enough Thai to kind of understand the talk. And he just stopped in the middle of the talk and laughed. And there was no reason to laugh. Like, he didn't just say something funny. Like, he just stopped and inserted a laugh into his talk because he thought that's what we needed. He didn't actually say something funny or like that you would normally laugh at. He just, like, in the middle of his talk, he just just like I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And it's only because he thought, yeah, Westerners kind of need that. He also said, like, normally for a Thai person or a Thai monk, especially, it's not polite to, like, at least in the past, not polite to show your teeth, like not polite to like laugh so much that your teeth are showing. So Normally, like if a Kruba Ajahn would laugh, he would like cover their mouth when they're laughing because it's not polite. But Longpa Liam said Westerners like teeth, so that in the West it's okay to show your teeth in the West. So these little things to think about to help us to cultivate insight and help us to gain insight into the Four Noble Truths can be very beneficial. Now, we'll continue sitting for another 30 minutes before we change postures.